Now, almost 8 in 10 South Africans say that their household income has been negatively impacted by a lockdown and COVID-19. Consumer credit reporting agency TransUnion conducted a survey on this subject from the beginning of April. Now, participants had either lost their jobs or their working hours had been drastically reduced. So to tell us more about this, we joined via Skype by Lee Naik, who's the CEO of TransUnion Africa. Lee, thanks so much and welcome to Morning Live.
Thanks for having me.
Now, firstly, this is not only a South African challenge, this is a global challenge according to your survey. Explain to us how you actually conducted the South African leg of this research.
What we try to do is we wanted to understand what are the emerging consumer behaviors. We know that post the lockdown on the 27th of March, that people would start to not have income and they would start to impact their credit balances and maybe potentially not even pay accounts. What we then decided to do was to survey South Africa on a weekly basis, starting the week of 6 April. And in the first week, we consulted 2,001 consumers across all 9 provinces and against all income groups, Sakina.
Now, Lee, did everyone who took part in this survey actually have some sort of income or employment?
They did. So everybody was an adult and everybody was in some form of employment, whether it was structured, formal, or informal employment.
So just coming to the research findings now, what types of jobs, formal or informal, businesses or income did the families that you actually survey have?
Well, the biggest impact we found is in the group we called millennials, as well as Gen X. So those born up until the year 1995. And what we found is for most of these youngsters, or in that probably the 21 plus age group, that they had what we call gig economy type jobs. So jobs that were either paid by the hour in some of the sectors that don't have long tenure. And those are the people that were starting to buy houses or had some kind of extended debt. And they were the most impacted, Sakina, from this study.
And Lee, with regard to financial concerns, I mean, what are some of those and what exactly is the impact, if you were able to ascertain, on households for South Africans as per the survey?
Well, 1 week after the lockdown started, we found that almost 80% of household income was already constricted, and a further 9% actually indicated that over the next 6 weeks they'll further become indebted. The scary part, Sakina, is that when we surveyed these 2,000 odd people, they believe that in the next 6 weeks, if this lockdown is extended, their household will be short by as much as 7,000 rand, putting them into a very indebted situation and forcing them to consider what they should pay or not pay from a debt perspective.
Now, these are unusual times, Lee. As a credit union like TransUnion, how is this going to impact people's credit profiles? Are you going to be lenient in looking at this and saying, you know, this was during that COVID-19 lockdown, or are you just going to deal with this as business as usual?
So as a credit bureau industry, we're actually well set up to deal with circumstances where payments are extended. What scares us, though, Sakina, from a credit bureau perspective, is that only 2 out of the 5 people that we surveyed actually were applying for payment holidays or we're asking for credit life insurance exceptions. Now, my concern from a credit bureau perspective, we see all data from every lender that you're working with. The scary part is if you don't take the onus to call your lender and ask them, do I have credit life insurance? Do I actually qualify for a payment holiday? Then you may find yourself in a position where you start to default on the credit bureau and you start to see lenders taking action against you. So my best advice is start to consult your lender if you're starting to feel the burden on paying off your debts. And more importantly, get access to your credit report. Only 3% of all consumers that have credit access their free credit report. That credit report is power to help you understand your level of indebtedness, Sakina.
So in other words, Lee, as the credit bureaus, you guys are not going to give people, you're not going to cut anybody any sort of slack, because I understand where you say, you know, check with your lending institutions, whether you have credit insurance, etc. But What about instances where people are simply forced to take leave, where they simply have lost their hours and are not getting any sort of income, or in instances where people are, for example, renting their accommodation and their landlords are not being accommodating at this time, and they perhaps have to prioritize that over other debt? Are you guys not going to soften up here?
I've lost you, Sakina.
At which point did you lose me there, Lee? I was asking about the credit bureaus and how they could actually come to the assistance of people who are having difficulty at this time, where they have actually no means of making payments on the credit that they have. We seem to have lost Lee Naik there. Apologies. Lee, of course, is the CEO of TransUnion Africa, one of the credit bureaus, talking to us about the financial impact of the coronavirus and the lockdown on people's household income. All right, we'll try and pick that up at a later stage, because I think it's an important one for many people in terms of how this lockdown is going to affect their credit reports. I believe we have Lee back. Lee, hopefully you can hear me. And
yes, I can.
Perhaps just a final question to you in terms of not just TransUnion, but these discussions you have as credit bureaus overall, in coming to the aid of South Africans who simply have lost their means of income, people who otherwise have impeccable credit records. Are you not going to soften up and cut them some slack at this time?
So all of us as credit bureaus work under the auspices of the National Credit Regulator. Right now, the credit regulator is going through some discussions around what to do regarding COVID-19 specifically. We've heard previously about concepts such as debt relief or debt review. So I expect in the next few days and weeks, we will get direction from the National Credit Regulator, who actually underwrites all these credit agreements that lenders put out. And that'll guide not just us as credit bureaus that hold the record on behalf of consumers, but also for every single bank and lender in terms of how they should treat consumers that are struggling to make these payments, Sakina. So over the next few weeks, I expect us to have clarity on what that looks like.
Lee, please let us know once that clarity is provided. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Lee Naik is the CEO of TransUnion Africa, talking to us about the financial impact of the coronavirus and how this lockdown is affecting people's household income. Let's go to news now.